and direct. Tune in, tune in. How are you guys feeling today? We're here, we're here. Let me get the festivities rolling. Make sure we got that poll going on here. Hold on. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me just get I'm getting the poll right. Give me 1 second. Let me get the poll right. Um um are you satisfied with Trump and Iran war? Yes or no? Yeah, let's keep it simple. Yes or no? Are you satisfied with the Trump Iran war? Yes or no? That will be the question tonight. Are you satisfied with the war, Trump? We're going to talk about Trump tonight. We're going to talk about Afroman, winning his case against the Adams County Police. And we're going to talk about one of the wackest rappers on the planet, Lil Russell. Tune in, tune in. Hit that like button. We got two people in the chat. Tune in tonight. We got some subject to talk about tonight. We got to talk about Donald Trump making a terrible off-color joke in front of the Prime Minister of Japan, making an absolute fool out of himself. I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed for him. I thought it was disgusting. If you don't know, Donald Trump, he sat down with the Prime Minister of Japan, and one of the Japanese journalists asked about, the surprise attack on Iran, and he countered back with the Japan a journalist asking about that surprise attack, and he said, "Well, you guys didn't tell us about Pearl Harbor." I thought that was very insensitive, very disgusting, very terrible joke in front of the. I mean, you're sitting there entertaining the Prime Minister of Japan. You're entertaining. We're allies with Japan. This is not World War II. We're trying to prevent World War III. And you're sitting down, you're entertaining this country. Why are you bringing up Pearl Harbor in front of Japan? It was nasty work. It was nasty work. Why did he do that? Why does your commander in chief continue to embarrass us, to embarrass himself on the world stage? We talked about how he was begging European countries for money, not for money, begging European countries to help him with the Strait of Hormuz. He's trying to get that oil, trying to get business flowing throughout there, right? Begging on his hands and knees, sounding like Keith Sweat. Baby, baby, I know. Baby, baby, don't know, but you don't know what I do. He was sounding like Keith Sweat in the building, right? When it came to that. So how many times is your commander-in-chief, Mr. Donald J. Trump, going to embarrass us? Y'all voted for this man. Y'all voted for this narcissistic, self-absorbed, billionaire, big-headed, egotistic sociopath. You voted for this man. Why did y'all feel the need to put this man back in office? Was January 6th not enough? Was the collusion not enough? You've said, you know what? I need my second portion of Donald J. Trump. And now look at the boat we're in. We're in a hell of a boat now. Let me put your commander in chief on the screen. Give me 1 second. Let me get that. Let me get that man on the screen. Give me 1 second, y'all. Get that command. Let me get your commander in chief. Yeah, he sat down. Oh, actually, let me not put that up there. Give me 1 second, cause I can't. I don't have the full screen of that. Yeah, Donald J. Trump. He sat down with Japan, the Prime Minister of Japan, and made an absolute fool out of himself. I mean, when you think about Pearl Harbor, Just the tragedy, all of those men of duty that laid down their lives, on the surprise attack, the kamikaze style attack on Pearl Harbor. Um, a tragedy, a national tragedy. Why open up those wounds? I'm sure that there's certain wounds in history, in my opinion, and of course by way of war, that just shouldn't be reopened. Like, come on, you don't mention Pearl Harbor in front of Japan. What are you doing? Is Donald Trump this disillusion? Is he this crazy? Is he this just and to even say the things he said? Oh, you guys know something about surprise attacks, and laughing about it. Come on, Donald Trump. Where are we at in society that we are allowing this? Where, like, what are we doing? It was just disgusting to see that. It was mortifying. I didn't think the joke was funny. I didn't think the joke was warranted. But this is your commander in chief. This is the man that you guys have elected. This is your commander in chief, Mr. Donald J. Trump. How did you guys feel about it? How did you guys feel when he sat down with the Japan's prime minister, who we have good relations with? At this particular point in time, when you got all these different countries warring with one another, you have the tensions with Russia, tensions with China, all these superpower countries. You got Europe. This should not be the time that you should be, maybe like making your allies rethink the working with you. This is not the time to be doing that. This should be the time of you regrouping with your allies, working together with them. Donald Trump is just offending people. Why are you bringing Japan up there and mentioning Pearl Harbor? If there was one thing that you shouldn't have mentioned when Japan is out there visiting, and respect to Japan, salute to Japan. Japan, they out here and they're supportive. They want to help with the Strait of Hormuz. They want to work with the United States. Why are you out here bringing up Pearl Harbor? That was if there was one thing not to mention, Pearl Harbor was the thing not to mention. But he said, you know what, F it. This is your commander in chief. This is the guy y'all put in office. This is the man you guys voted for. And please let me know on that. Let me know in the what's it called, in that on the poll. I want to know how y'all feel. Are you satisfied with this war? Do you feel like this war is working out for you? Brian Ramsey says, "What are they gonna do about it?" Yo, Brian Ramsey, I respect what you're saying right there. I respect what you're saying, but I think it's just very disrespectful. We are far removed from the 1940s and the in the the World War II. We're far removed. Japan has been a friend to the United States. We have repaired the relationship. We're in a better place. Why reopen that wound of Pearl Harbor? Why go there? Why even mention it? It was distasteful. Some things are just distasteful, right? Some things are just some things shouldn't be brought up. Some things are just distasteful. Some things are just not the right place and the right time. That was the case in point of wrong place, wrong time. And I understand where you're coming from. What are they going to do about it? I get it. You're coming from an American perspective. You're coming from we have the mightiest army. We have all the nukes. We're a superpower. I get the perspective that you're coming from, but you got to remember, Japan is an ally. We're looking at them as an ally. Why offend the allies? Understand that United States has reached out to multiple countries in terms of helping with the Strait of Hormuz. They're trying to open up the Strait of Hormuz. Why offend, allies trying to help you? At this particular point in time, you need the allies. We need our allies. Trump is trying to say that we don't need allies. I disagree. We need allies. We're spending, we're shooting $1 million missiles to shoot down $30,000 drones. This war needs to be refinanced. We may have to send in one of them little countries to fight this war. I just feel like it was just the wrong place, wrong time, and he probably shouldn't have said what he said, but he said it. But it is what it is. I mean, he can't take it back now. He said it. But I just think it was very distasteful. I don't think it was the right thing to say at the right time. Like I said, sometimes you can say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and that was the wrong thing at the wrong time. Like, you know what I compare it to? I compare it to Zelensky when he was in the Oval Office and he was talking crazy in the Oval Office talking about, oh, you don't feel the power of Russia because you have the big sea, and between you two, but you will feel the power of Russia. But when he was saying all of that in the Oval Office, that was case in point of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time. Because as soon as he let that out, slip out his mouth, JD Vance and Trump bounced on him and was just going in on him. And they just started going in on him for talking crazy. Like, you don't talk like that in the White House. You're here as a guest. You're here as a guest. You don't tell America and Americans what we gonna feel. So yeah, I feel like that. That was another case in point of just wrong place, wrong time, saying something. Brian says, my dad used to beat my butt. What I did wrong, and he would remind me of it, and that he could still do it again. Kind of makes sense, does it? I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. And like I said, I get where you're coming from. But you have to remember, we need allies. Any war, you need allies. You need allies. Look at any great war. Name one war that was won without allies. Give me one war that was won without allies. Give me one. Just give me one. Give me one war that was won without allies. You need allies. You need people that are going to, support you, what you're doing. Right now, United States is not in a good space. We're hated by a lot of countries. A lot of countries are dislike us. They dislike the leadership of this country. They dislike the place, spaces where we're headed. We're not very liked. So why disappoint our allies? Why talk crazy to the allies? If you said we were talking crazy to an enemy, we were talking crazy to a Russia, or we were talking crazy to a China, then I would probably be on your side. It's just like, these are superpowers. They're not trying to fall under the will of America anyway. But when you're talking about a country like Japan, who has since been an ally to the United States, why piss them off? And at this point, you're making enemies where you don't need to make enemies. Why make new enemies for no reason? You're just making enemies just to make enemies? It doesn't make sense to me, Why piss off people? Why make enemies where there are no enemies? You know? So yeah, I thought what Donald Trump said was just very disrespectful. Very disrespectful. And I hope that the prime minister and the leadership in Japan don't take it any way. Mentioning Pearl Harbor. And listen, man, Pearl Harbor is one of the most tragic days in American history. It was tragic what happened. Why open up that wound? Why bring it up? Why talk about it? Why? Let's move past that. Let's get to a new chapter where we're working together and building together, and we're in a good space. Like, why reopen the wound of Hiroshima? Open up the womb of Nagasaki. Open up the womb of Pearl Harbor. Why open up those wounds? Why? This is a new chapter. A new chapter in American history, a new chapter of us working together. And I just felt like what Trump said was just distasteful. Wrong pace, wrong time to say that. It would be different if he was in a room full of Americans saying this. You're in front of the Japanese, prime minister. Salute to With K. See, he says, "Hey, bro. Hey, what's going on, bro? Hey, how you doing? Salute to you." But let me know how you guys feel. Do you feel like Trump is dropping the ball on this war? I want to talk to Trump supporters. I've been doing these shows since the election, and I want to talk directly to the Trump supporters. Trump supporters, I want to talk to you tonight. I'm interested in where you're coming from. I'm interested in your sensibilities. I'm interested in what you're feeling in terms of Trump, the leadership, the administration, where we're going with this war. I mean, a lot of you Trump supporters, you voted for Trump with the notion that we weren't going to war. So a lot of you are not necessarily on pace or on the same page with Donald Trump with this war. A lot of you voted against this, right? Some of you feel that, you know, this is a necessary evil. We have to go to war because Iran and the capabilities, not necessarily to us, but to Israel. A lot of you are in alliance with Israel. I just want to hear you guys' point of view. It says, hey, it's DJ KC. I remember you. Salute to DJ Casey. I remember you. So you changed your YouTube handle. That's what it was, right? It's DJ Casey. Salute, bro. Salute. Hey man, you changed your YouTube handle. That's what you did. Yeah, but salute. I want to talk to the Trump supporters tonight. Caprella says Tiffany and Trump 2028. Do you feel like Trump would get a third term? Would you guys want to see a Trump third term? Let me actually I might make that in a poll. Would you guys want to see a third term of Trump? Tell me right now, would you want to see a third Trump term? Somebody says 45 through 47. Snow of Life says no. Exactly. I'm over it. I'm over the MAGA era of politics. I'm over it. I'm done with the MAGA era of politics. I'm over it. I think we've had enough of the MAGA era of politics. I think JD Vance is clearly going to be the next generation of MAGA politics. But personally, I think that listen, it's been a great run, right? And I'm going to say it. I think Donald Trump is probably the most entertaining president of our lifetime, but I'm not necessarily looking for an entertaining president. I'm looking for a president that's going to fit the needs of America right here and right now. And I don't necessarily feel like he's that president today. I feel like he's working for the betterment of Israel, not necessarily America. He's done some good things. I think him calling for a state of emergency at the border, that was probably the most smartest thing he's done. But I don't really like the fact that he's working on behalf of Israel. Why aren't you working on behalf of the American people? Because I would say the majority of America is not in alliance with this war. Caprella says, "Who give a f? What you think?" Now they're calling me DJ Academics. Okay. Give me 1 second. If you ask him, he'll forgive you. I'm just reading some of the comments. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second, y'all. Let me put somebody in timeout. Let me put you in timeout for a little bit. There we go. Had to put somebody in timeout. Yeah, but in my opinion, though, I just feel like Trump is not working on behalf of the American people. I want Trump to work on behalf of the American people. He's not doing that anymore. We need a president that's going to work on behalf of the American people, not on behalf of Israel. We don't live in Israel. We live in America. You know, so I'm kind of over the MAGA era of America. I'm ready for it to be over. I'm ready for a new era that's not MAGA. Yeah, I think, I've had enough. I was over the MAGA politics after January 6th. I thought after January 6th, I thought we had enough. I thought after the pandemic in January 6th, I felt like as a country, we had enough of MAGA. I thought that January 6th was like, you know what? It was like a toxic relationship. And this was the big fight. This was like, when you're in a bad relationship, you didn't went through she didn't cheated on you, you didn't had fights, you had arguments, it was, the plates were broken, glasses were broken, was a couple domestic disturbances. Police called, and I felt like January 6th. This is like America in a tumultuous relationship. January 6th was like the big blow up fight that we break up. That's what I thought it was. Like America is finally breaking up with Donald Trump. And then here you guys, like that, that wide-eyed girlfriend that just can't get over a certain guy. You went back to the guy. You went back to the guy that ushered in a world pandemic. You went back to the guy that all of the civil unrest and all of the protests around the country. You went back to the guy after all the tumultuous issues you had with him. You went back to the guy, and I just don't understand why you went back to the guy. Brian says, "Did you see what Iran did to our soldiers in 1978?" I did hear about that. I did hear about that. Listen, man, I'm in no agreement with Iran. Um, I'm in no agreement with most of the countries in that region and in that area. Um, but it's their country. And we did, disturb, we did go into their airspace. We did go into a sovereign country and disturb them. America really can't say anything about Russia and Ukraine anymore. We used to have that. We used to say, you know what? Russia disturbed Ukraine's sovereignty. We can't say that anymore because we disturbed Iran's sovereignty. So we don't have any hill to stand on. We don't have any moral ground to stand on. It's their country. We disturbed their sovereignty. So it is what it is. At the end of the day, I'm an American. I live in America. I'm rooting for America. I'm not one of these people that, because we got people in this country that are mutinous. A lot of liberals, mutinous. It's like, they would rather the country burn down to the ground to see Donald Trump win. There are a lot of mutinous people in this country, right? So, I'm rooting for America, but at the end of the day, it's just like, you know, I mean, America has no high ground. America has no morality in the situation. You disturb Iran's sovereignty, you know? User says you took the needle Trump juice. Don't worry. No, I didn't take the needle or the Trump juice. I'm not on the Trump train at all. I'm a harsh criticizer of Donald Trump. I'm not a supporter of Donald Trump. I didn't vote for Donald Trump. I would never vote for Donald Trump. Um, but we live in America, and at the end of the day, Donald Trump is our commander in chief. There's nothing I can do about that. He's our commander in chief. He's the president. I mean, it's his administration. He has his 3 years to do what he does, and it is what it is. It's way above my pay grade. Christina says you talk too much. Then why are you here? Go watch somebody else. Why are you here? I don't understand. You're here. You're here to watch me talk, but you don't want to hear me talk. Then go somewhere. I'll put you in timeout. There you go. Goodbye. Ball says the fact is, hold on. The fact is more. Wait, the fact is more than half of the voters of this country voted for Trump twice, if not three times. Listen, I agree. The majority of this country voted. Actually, let me pin that. I'm gonna pin that because I agree with what you're saying. Let me pin that message. I agree with what you're saying. At the end of the day, you know, this is what America wanted. Whether you admit it or not, you wanted this war. You wanted the ICE agents. You wanted this war. You wanted all of the policies and the politics of Donald Trump. You wanted all of this. You voted for this. So I agree with what you're saying. At the end of the day, more than half of this country voted for this man. And we got to respect that. We got to respect that. Y'all thought that Kamala Harris was uneducated, underqualified. You thought that she was a mammy. You thought that she was no good. You thought that she couldn't she wasn't smarter than a doorknob. You thought lowly of her. You thought that she couldn't do the job. And listen, I partly agree with you. But at the end of the day, it's just like, like you said, more than half of the country voted for Donald Trump. So at the end of the day, you voted for this. You voted for this man. So if everything he does, I mean, it's by way of you. You caused this. And I've talked about my stance in terms of Trump. I feel that Trump is a byproduct of the Democrats. He's not a byproduct of MAGA and the Republicans. I think MAGA and the Republicans enabled him, right? Empowered him. But I think the Democrats and the liberals, the foes, the people that politically tried to throw him in jail, criminalize him, those are the people that created Donald Trump's second term. It wasn't MAGA. MAGA got him in the White House. The Democrats are what created the second term, in my humble opinion. The Democrats created the second term. The Democrats are solely responsible for the second term. No one else is responsible for the second term outside of the Democrats. The Democrats are what created this. So anybody in history looking back, don't blame MAGA. Blame the Democrats. The Democrats created this monster. That's a 1,000% fact. Where we at on time? We got almost 30 minutes. But how do you guys feel about this war? How do you guys feel about Trump? Do you feel like Trump is doing a good job? Do you think that Trump is a great commander in chief? Let me see the I'm looking at the okay, we got 20 votes. Okay, most of you are not rocking with that. Most of you are not rocking with the war. Most of you are not rocking with this war. You're not rocking with Trump. I'm not rocking with this war. I'm not rocking with Trump. I think Trump is doing a terrible job financing this war. I think he didn't plan long term. He's even said on a record that he had no idea that Iran was going to attack all of these Gulf countries. He didn't have a clue. How is that not in your strategy? User says you have a clear and open view. I like it. Thank you. At the end of the day, like I said, man, Donald Trump, he is your commander in chief. He's the guy, running the ship. It's really, and I want to talk. I want to go deeper in the rabbit hole, but we're on YouTube. Maybe at some point I need to make a Patreon or maybe take it to Twitch or something like that. Really go down the rabbit hole, because we really got to talk about Trump's handlers. At some point, I gotta do a deep dive on the handlers of Trump. Trump has handlers that we need to talk about. So at some point, I'm going to do a stream on Trump's handlers. The handlers of Trump needs to be talked about because when you see the handlers, when you see the people in his cabinet, when you see the people in his administration, you already see the agenda that's trying to be, taken to the next level. There's an agenda. There's an agenda. And when you look at the cabinet, when you look at the administration he has, the people he has in his cabinet, you see what the agenda is. There's an agenda. There's an agenda. You know? Yeah, but in terms of Donald Trump, man, listen, man, the guy's wilding. He's wilding right now, offending Japan for no reason. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Yeah. Let's shift gears for 1 second. Maybe we'll get back to Donald Trump. Let's talk about this man right here. Let's talk about Afroman. Has anybody been watching the Afroman case? The Afroman. Anybody been watching the Afroman case? Have you been watching the Afroman lawsuit, the civil lawsuit against him and the Adams County Police Department? I want to say salute to Afroman. And thank God for justice. Justice prevailed. Here you have some white supremacist officers kicking down the door of a rapper's home, invading his privacy, cutting off the man's video camera. Who does that? Who cuts off a man's who does see that's when you know. That's when I knew that these cops were crooked. These cops were crooked. These cops were absolutely 1,000% crooked. For you to cut off someone's video camera system in their home, what are you hiding? What are you trying to hide? Because clearly when you cut somebody video camera off, and I felt him on that. He kept making that a point to bring up the fact that his video camera system in his house was cut off. He kept bringing that up. And I think that's a great point. Why does an officer cut off the video camera? This is something that advanced robbers do. Advanced robbers cut off the video camera system in homes when they're robbing a place. This is something that people who delete people who are advanced at deleting people, or people that know and think about, oh, this person has cameras in their home. So if I do something to someone, I have to get rid of the cameras. This is what criminals do. Why did the police department cut off the cameras? Why did they not want Afroman and his family to see what was happening? That's a valid gripe. It's a valid gripe. Somebody says, I love Afroman's outfit. Yeah, it's very, I love it. It reminds me of Joel Santana's outfit on The Diplomatic Immunity. Very patriotic, right? Very patriotic. West says, not all white people are bad. I disagree. It's like, listen, all white people, they're not bad. But listen, there's bad apples in every race. Let's just be honest. I can call a spade a spade. There's bad people in all races, and there's damn sure a lot of bad people in the police department. There's good cops, there's bad cops. And if we're looking at that case, those police officers were bad cops. Why did you cut that man's video camera system off? Why did $400 out of his money go missing? There's a lot of things that just bothers me as a concerned citizen that was happening in that home during that whole, that whole thing. User says, no, there is a million things happening. It's exhausting. I got corruption fatigue. Yeah, it's ridiculous. They absolutely violated this man's rights. They absolutely had no reason, because I looked at the warrant. There was really nothing there. They accused him, or they said that the reason that they were kicking down the door was based off of kidnapping and I believe what, narcotics. They didn't find any kidnap victims. I mean, they're looking through suit pants and stuff like that. Where were the kidnap victims at? Why you guys aren't, opening up floorboards, and why you guys aren't, like, looking in the basement and stuff like that. You guys are all in the suit pants and stuff like that. I mean, I would think you guys would be looking for a secret, compartment, looking for, people like that. I wouldn't think you would be going through suit pants. I don't think a person could fit in a suit pants if they got kidnapped. But these cops are corrupt. A lot of police departments in America are corrupt. There's bad apples in all parts of department, in all police departments, and sadly, a lot of the bad apples in the police departments are at the top, and they have influence, and they have people that they are over that are also bad apples. So that happens, you know, right? Rodike says half of the voters in the country didn't vote for Trump twice, if not three times. That's a fact. They did. They voted for Trump. I think that at the end of Trump's presidency, probably a lot of people are going to regret voting for him, though. In my opinion, that is my opinion, though. Wes says, just subscribe, my friend. Salute to Wes for subscribing. Salute. Thank you. You are a patriot. Salute to you. But in terms of Afroman, I just feel like, he got dealt a very bad hand, by the police department. And what they did was just very disrespectful, No apology. They broke the man's gate. They stole the man's money. Accused him of this, accused him of that. And the only thing he did was retaliate in a satirical manner. Think about it. He didn't pick up a gun. He didn't go down to the police department and say, you know what, I'm going to take justice into my own hands and regulate. He didn't do none of that. He didn't get physical with the officers. He didn't do anything in a violent nature. He did what he's always done, and that's create music and take the material of what he went through and turn it into something positive. And the police took that and said, you are defaming us. You are, disrespecting us. You are lying on us. And in reality, it's just like, dog, you disrespected me. I didn't kick down your door and, run through your house with AR-15. Imagine if Afroman's kids was there. Put yourself in his shoes for a second. Imagine if you had kids. Let's say you had two small little babies, right? Two little small babies, let's say 4 and 5, and 3 in the morning, 7 police officers rummage through your house with no rhyme or reason, with AR-15s pointed at everybody. Get out of the bed. How would you feel? How would y'all feel? West says, and I saw some female cop crying on the stand at court. Yeah, that was Lieutenant Lickum Lisa. Lickum Low Lisa. Lickum Low Lisa. Crying. This the same woman running through the house with the AR-15. She didn't care if it was babies in the home. If it was babies in the home, and they wondering, why are 7 police officers running through my home with AR-15s pointed at the family dog? You know, she's sitting up there crying about a song, about a satirical song that somebody made about her funky ass, right? But she don't give a damn if it was kids in that home and they were crying that there were 7 officers with AR-15s running through the home, ready to commit, ready to take somebody's life if they act crazy, if they do something, if something is in somebody's hand and it looks like a gun. That's real. So, you know, I think Afroman, I think that this was a win for freedom of speech. I think that this was a win for America. I think that this was a win in terms of, police officers, you know, um, disrespecting the public, violating the public's rights, their homes, their privacy. This was a win for the American people, in my opinion. Um, Hold on. Wes says, if we all could stick together, we could take back our country. That's a fact, man. That's a fact. I agree. I think that the American people need to stick together because, listen, man, when it hits the fan, I'm going to keep it a buck. When it hits the fan, we're going to have to stick together. When the government, listen, when the government says, listen, we're martial law, and they shut it all down and they say, listen, fall in line. The reason why we have the right to bear arms, a lot of people don't know this. The reason that we have the right to bear arms and we have that amendment, right, was that the people was supposed to be the last form of militia. When the government fails, when all else fails, when the police department fails, when all else fails, the people was supposed to act as the last form of militia. A lot of people don't know that. So yeah, I agree. We do need to stick together, We do. Ball says he won the case for over 6 million, right? I don't know how much they were suing him for. I don't know how much I don't know if it was for 6 million. He did win the case. He did win the case. They were suing him for defamation and I believe invasion of privacy. I don't know how much it was for, but he did win the case. They ruled in his favor. And I think it was a win for freedom of speech, you know? And he had a point. He said that if it wasn't for them kicking down my door, invading my privacy, turning off my video camera, you know, coming into my house with a warrant that made no sense, and they had no rhyme or reason for being there. They found nothing. They violated my rights. And if they would have never done any of that, I would have never made a song about them. I would have never clowned them. I would have never made any type of satirical song. He has a point. He has a point with that. They would have never been in none of his songs. There would have never been no Lick 'em Low Lisa. Would have been no Sean Grooming Grooms. It would have been no Walter. I forgot the name of the other guy. It would have been none of them songs, though. And I ain't gonna lie, all of them songs is hits. He need to take them songs on the road. Now, I'm not gonna lie, though. I'm gonna keep it real with y'all. I'm gonna keep it real. I think he needs to leave Adams County. He got a target on his back now. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna lie. If I was him, I'm gonna keep it real. If I was him, I would leave. I would leave. You got a target on your back now. I was talking about this with my brother today. Every traffic stop, every time you walk through the community, every time, you might just, he's a weed smoker. Every time you might want to purchase a little bit of weed, and they're going to be watching him. They're going to be on him. So personally, I don't think it's worth staying in Adams County. I think he should just pack up and leave Adams County. You proved your point. You got your thing off. I would pack up and leave because I think it's a small town. Adams County, it's a small town. It's a small, place in Ohio. It's not worth it. It's not worth to be harassed by these officers, in this small town. Every traffic stop, every little infraction, they got their eye on you. Clearly, these officers have a grudge. They have a grudge because I'm going to be honest with you. Was probably they don't care about pedestrians. It's not about the pedestrians and the civilians, making fun of them. I mean, it might be a small part of it, and they probably feel a little bit embarrassed by that. I think it's more so the colleagues. I think when they go into that police department, they know that their colleagues is talking like Lickum Low Lisa Phillips. She knows her colleagues are talking about her. She knows her colleagues are watching those videos and making fun of her. It's in the group chats. It's being talked about in the squad cars. It's being talked about when they go to lunch, when they go to Dunkin' Donuts, and she's not around. They're talking about all of those videos. They're talking about all of the videos and the songs and the content in the songs and the things. It's a joke. It's a running joke. And that's probably more what they care about. I don't think they care about civilians laughing at them like that. It's a part of it, and they probably get a little bit pissed about it, that people are laughing about it and whatever, like civilians. But it's more so about the colleagues. The colleagues is what they mad about. These cops, they care about their careers, and I think they're mad about their colleagues making fun of them. You know, somebody says, Kelvin says Trump 2028 for prison. I don't think Trump's going to prison. I don't think he'll go to prison. Ball says no one disagrees. The police were way in the wrong for what they did. Absolutely, they were way out of pocket. They were way out of pocket, man. You know, they were way out of pocket. And like I said, for the police department to turn off the video, for them to cut off that video camera, to me, that's suspicious. It's very suspicious. It's very suspicious that the fact that they would turn off that camera. Why are you turning off the camera? You're a police. You're a police officer. You wear body cams. I would think you would want people to see what you're doing, where you're going, what you're doing in people's homes, what you're taking, what you're snatching, what you're putting for evidence, what you're not putting for evidence, what you're hiding. Very diabolical. So if I was Afroman, I would leave. I would leave Adams County. Because it's just not worth it. It's not worth it. You're in a small town in Ohio, and he may love it there, but at this particular point in time, you're dealing with powerful people in the police department now. Some of those people that he was talking about the sheriff, he was talking about a lieutenant. Who else was he talking about? He talked about the judge. There's powerful people in that county that are not going to like those videos, are not going to like the things he said. And now every little thing, every little thing, it could be something very small. It could be a traffic stop. It could be, anything. They're on his ass. And do you want to live like that? Do you want to live with the police department constantly on your ass, constantly? Like, the people are going to be behind you because they're going to realize, like, yeah, the police department, they just got a bone to pick with them. But at the end of the day, do you constantly want to be bothered by the police? It's just better to just pack up and leave and you made your point, you won your case, up and leave and get up out of there. I mean, if Afro Man is he's from South Central. So it's not like he grew up there. I could understand if you grew up there and you're like, I'm not leaving. But, if you're from another place, you've been to other places, maybe you should just pack up and leave and just, start somewhere else. Kelvin says, didn't they run up in his spot before? No, I think that was the only time they did was with that warrant that they had. I think that was the only time. But they did violate his home. They violated his home, and thank God none of his kids was there. 'Cause I heard he has kids, so thank God none of his kids was there, because that would have been sad to see. But salute to Afro Man, and I think that what he did was a win for free speech. It was a win for corrupt police officers, and the people that have to deal with that. Yeah, salute to Afro Man. And my last subject for today, I wanted to ask, who is the corniest rapper? Who is the corniest rapper? This is my last subject for today. We're gonna pack it up. Who would you say is the corniest rapper of all time? Would you say it's this man right here? Would you say Will Smith is the corniest rapper of all time? Who is the corniest rapper of all time? Ball says police corruption towards citizens is not exclusive to treatment of the black community. All groups have major issues with them too. I highly disagree. You can look at the statistics. Look at the statistics. Look at the amount of black individuals that are falsely accused, falsely imprisoned. It's highly disproportionate. A black man in America is more likely to be falsely accused, falsely imprisoned for a crime he did not commit. So I highly disagree. Highly disagree. Look at the stats. The stats don't lie. The stats don't lie. You know, Respectfully, white people. And I'm not trying to play the race card. I'm not here to say, white people don't deal with corrupt police. I'm not here to say that Latinos don't deal with corrupt police. They absolutely do. Corrupt police, they're not a monolith. They're everywhere. They're in every county, they're in every state. There's good officers, there's bad officers. But it's a reality. And I'm not here to say that white people don't deal with that, because they absolutely do. But when you look at the stats, when the amount of black men that are falsely accused, falsely imprisoned for crimes that they did not commit, I mean, I don't know how you can look at that stat and say what you're saying. You know? Wes says, I don't know. Will Smith is from my hood, Philly. Really? You from West Philadelphia, West? West Philadelphia, born and raised. Listen, man, I like Will Smith as a person, and I think he gets kind of a bad rap. For his clean cut raps, and his I think he's an incredible actor. But he is one of the most corniest rappers of all time. I don't think he is the corniest of all time. Right? I don't think he's the corniest. I think there's a lot of people you could put up there. But is he one of the corniest rappers of all time? You can make a case for him. You can make a case for Will Smith. I'm not gonna say he is the corniest of all time. He's the corniest I've ever heard. I don't know if he's the corniest I've ever heard. Wes says, haha, I'm from South Philadelphia, but still live in Philadelphia. Yeah, listen, man, South Philadelphia. Let me know, what's the deal with West Philadelphia? I mean, with Philadelphia, is it a West Side? Because I heard it's a West Side and there's a North Side. So you're from the South, so there's a West, there's a North, and there's a South. Is there an East Side? So there's an East Philadelphia too. Y'all got it. Like most cities is like northwest, east, west. Y'all got the north, y'all got the south, y'all got the west, y'all got the east. Y'all got so many different sides, man. Most places it's like north and south. Like it's a North Houston, a South Houston, or if it's a south side. I mean, it's an east side, it's a west side of this town. Y'all got all the regions. Oh, there's no East Philly. Okay, all right. Yeah, because I keep hearing. I know there's a North Philly, there's a South Philly, and then you're from the West Philadelphia. So there's no East though. There's no East Philly. Okay. Yeah, man. I'm thinking about going to Philadelphia for the Roots picnic because I heard Jay-Z's gonna be there. So I'm thinking about going to Philadelphia for the Roots picnic to see Jay-Z. Hopefully they got a decent lineup. Hope it's just not Jay-Z. I hope it's more others on that lineup. Yeah, but I don't think Will Smith is the wackest rapper. You got Little Pump, Little Pump. Would anybody say Little Pump is whacker or cornier than than um than Will Smith? Wes says the Roots picnic is a great time for real, for real. Yeah, man. A lot of beautiful black women out there. I'm definitely trying to go there. Definitely. I definitely want to go, man. I haven't been to Philly in a while, so I would definitely love to go. I've heard nothing but great things about the Roots Pit. I heard it's a very dope vibe out there, so I'm definitely willing to go. Would y'all say Little Pump is the corniest? I think he's top five. I think Little Pump is top five. One of the corniest rappers of all time. Who else would y'all say? Now this is one person I don't agree with. I don't think Common is one of the corny. A lot of people like to say Common is corny. Common is one of the greatest rappers of all time. Is he clean cut? Yes. Is he conscious? Yes. But when you think about the classic albums, Resurrection, the album B, he has classic albums. He has classic verses. He went up against Ice Cube, had a classic rap battle. So when people say Common is he's corny or he's whack or I disagree with Common being mentioned in these corniest rappers or he corny. I disagree. I think Common is one of the greatest rappers of all time. So I wouldn't put Common there. But some people say, but I would never do that to him. And then you got this man. I think this is a new addition. Your man La Russell. Anybody heard of La Russell? I think La Russell is this generation's corniest rapper. I think every generation has a rapper, right? That everybody starts to loathe. Everybody starts to hate them. I think Lil Russell is turning into that rapper. I seen it happen with Little Pump. I seen it happen with Soldier Boy. I seen it happen with Little Yachty. I've seen it happen to Criss Cross. I've seen it happen to so many rappers, and I think it's shine time for this nigga, right? I think it's his time. I think it's his time for the hip hop world and the hip hop, nation and the genre to dislike Lil Russell. He's just coming off so corny and contrived right now. User says, I wore my 40 for so long, it made my shoulders sore. Who howling wolf? I don't know what that is. I don't know. You gotta break that down for me. I don't know what that is. I don't know what you're talking about. But how do y'all feel about Lil Russell? Do y'all feel like Lil Russell is the corniest rapper? I'm just asking the question. I have no answer. I'm just asking the question. Is Lil Russell the corniest rapper of all time? Would y'all say Lil Russell? Let me know. Would y'all say Lil Russell is the corniest rapper that has ever rapped on the mic, on the MIC? You know who else I should have put on this? I should have put Jack Harlow. Because Jack Harlow, he had a bad album, put out a bad album. I would put Jack Harlow there. Jack Harlow. Let's take it old school. KRS-One. Who would y'all say is one of the? Just give me a name. Do y'all have a name? Who would y'all say is one of the wackest rappers? Do y'all have a name? Give me one name. If you have a name, you know. Some people say 6ix9ine, Little Pump, Little Yachty. Some people hate the new generation of rappers. Some people will say Playboy Cardi. I disagree. Yeah, man. Yeah, but listen, I just wanted to come on here and do a little show, talk to y'all for a little bit. I thought it was imperative that I do. I just want to come on here and talk for a little bit about different topics, different things. Salute to Wes for subscribing. Salute to everybody that's checked in. I just want to come on here and talk to y'all for a little bit, for a little while. I'm gonna do a live tomorrow. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be a little bit more different from the setup we got here. I just want to come on here and talk. I didn't want to set up the camera, set up the lighting, set up all these different things. I just said, you know what? Let me just come on and just talk to y'all on my phone for like an hour or so. I think that would be copacetic. So we decided to go this route. But with that being said, listen, y'all have a good night. You have a good weekend. Y'all enjoy yourselves, and I see you guys on another stream, man. We out. Salute, salute. Yeah, salute the West, man. Salute. I see y'all in the next stream, man. We out.